video to the test that I've just done a few minutes ago, because I watched my own video where I did the test, and to be honest with you, I was really surprised, because this is what the whole point was of this design, really. But I'll tell you what's significant about it and what kind of struck me, because there's a reason why I did two tests. One, I think I made an error before when I said 300 RPM, but it actually was the minimum test. The small test was 3000 RPM, and the major test was at 5000 RPM. Now, the reason why I did two tests at different speeds was because of the airflow constriction on the rotor. What I mean is, the faster you turn the rotor, the more wind resistance you encounter, and it starts to become an electric fan, blowing air. So the faster you turn it, the more rapidly it will slow down at the top end. So at 5000 RPM, it will drop quite quickly, just due to the resistance of the air and the bearings and all the other mechanical things which are going on, and to slow it down. So when you're doing a test at a higher RPM, you actually get a more accurate reading over the inertial mass deceleration, because it will slow down regardless of whether you're producing current or voltage. It will slow down more rapidly, simply because it's encountering resistance of the air and everything else. So but I'm really bad with mathematics. To be honest with you, I do make mistakes occasionally, but I worked out the average time and everything. Now, I did put in the comments of the previous video, and I wrote this down here. Now, when I did the current test for the 3000 RPM test, I basically stopped my stopwatch as soon as I saw the rotor was stopped, or backtracking. It started to rotate the opposite direction as soon as it stopped. And I came up on the current setting at 1 minute 47 seconds. And then I did the voltage test, and this was all going up to a peak of about 3000 RPM. When I say about 3000 RPM, it really doesn't matter if the RPM meter says 3020 or 3010 for the current or the voltage, because as you saw, as soon as I took the drill off that thing, it just plummeted like a stone. I mean, within a second, we were down to something like 2500 or something RPM, because it loses most of that inertia, that speed at the top end, because of wind resistance and bearing resistance and everything else. So we're not actually cheating. We can't cheat, because as soon as I took the drill off, it just stops like a stone. So you can go back and watch the video again. So what blew me away was the fact that the difference between the current and the voltage on both tests there was only a difference of about 3 seconds on the first one. So we got 1 minute 47 seconds under load, and we got 1 minute 50 seconds with just voltage. That's no load. That's the first test. Then the second test, we did the voltage test, which came out at 2 minutes and 11 seconds. And then I did the current test, and that came out at 2 minutes and 7 seconds, and that was a difference of 4 seconds. So I added both the 4 seconds to the 3 seconds. I added them together in my calculator, and I divided by 2 to get the average, which was 3.5 seconds. So we come to a conclusion that overall, I only lost 3.5 seconds. I mean, what's that? That's 1, 2, 3.5 seconds. That is as long as it took me to count, because I'm listening to my clock ticking up the other side of the room. So when you take that into consideration, the fact that we were pushing out a peak of 100 milliamps on the second test, which is that one there, and we're about 68 milliamps on the first test. This thing should have stopped on a conventional generator at pushing that amount of current. It should have stopped within 30 seconds. It should have come to a grinding halt, because that's what they use. They can use that as an electronic braking in buses and things like that too. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that, comment about it, because, as I said, I think there's potential in this thing, but there is still a problem, and that is the fact that I'm not getting much voltage out of it yet. So what I'm wondering, I think what's going to really be surprising is when I add more coils to this thing. I'm going to keep this little note that I made, because when I add more coils to this thing and it's producing, say, 2 times or 3 times the amount of current, or 3 times the amount of voltage, are these numbers going to change? The time. That is what I'm interested in, seeing how much the numbers are going to change. Now, obviously, I do expect to lose a few more seconds, because under current we lost about on the first test we lost about 3 seconds. So does that mean I'm going to lose 6 seconds with 2 coils and 9 seconds with 3 coils? Obviously, I really want to know how much current this thing is going to use to drive it. Well, the good news is there's my motor holder. I printed it and it's acetone, and I'm waiting for it to shrink a bit, because the motor's a bit loose in there right now. But when this holder shrinks, I'm going to attach it to the back of this thing, which slots into that hole there. Right, so it's going to go in there. I'm waiting for it to shrink because it's too tight right now. I made sure it was about a little bit oversized, so when it shrinks, it'll slot in. The motor is going to be basically bolted glued onto the back of this, and I can slide it in and slide it into the assembly, and then I can put my belt on, and then I can move this pulley out and adjust. Well, obviously I can't adjust the tension. That's why I'm going to glue this on at the right distance to get the tension on the belt right. So I'll probably put the belt on, pull it to tension, then hold it with my finger, take the belt off, then I'll use acetone to bond it onto that stick. Then I know that the belt's the right tension, then I can stick it on. So that's what I'm waiting for at the moment, just letting this thing shrink a bit because it's a bit loose, and this is too tight to go in the hole, but it will shrink and then I'll be able to get it in the hole. Oh, there I go again with these funny words. Yeah, so anyway, I thought I'd just let you know what my conclusions are as a little update. At least I'm going to sleep well when I go to bed, because I didn't sleep so good the other day, but because yeah, it's very encouraging. I mean, just bear in mind that when I was running the test with this other generator, this one here, when I put load on about 100 milliamps, that thing slowed down really quickly. I lost like, was it 300, 400 RPM? That was when it was under power. I actually lost a lot of RPMs pretty quickly when I put load on it. And you can go back and look at those videos. But this thing, it just keeps going until, you know what I mean? Even though it's not powered up, it keeps on going. So, yeah. Fascinating, as Mr. Spock always says. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye for now.